Hi everybody, this is Cody's Arcade Emergencies, and we're looking at an Indiana Jones Williams pinball machine today. It's about 30 years old, and I turned it on, and I was getting the path of adventure was not moving to the left or the right in the self-test. And when we went into the self-test here, we went to tests, we went back to mini playfield tests, check, check, check. Uh-oh, looks like we have an issue. So if you're getting this, and or your machine is constantly rotating balls through it, and you get this mini error playfield, I want to show you what exactly it was. Now, while the playfield is there, you can see the switches right here. They're not in the regular self-test. They're switch 94 and 95. You can physically move the playfield. It's not going to hurt it. And you can check your switches. Those ones are working fine. But when you hit one of the red buttons, you can see the motor's not working. So let's go ahead and look at the underside of the playfield where this machine might be having a problem. Okay, under the playfield, you're going to find this board. It's an EMI board. It only has two wires, red and white, on the left side. That goes to the motor on the path of adventure, which, by the way, I tested with a 9-volt battery, and it moved in both directions, so it was good. It does have the red light, like it's getting power, and the other wires over here are the 12 volts. It's got a built-in 5-volt regulator, and it has the two leads that are coming from the I/O board, telling it to move left or right. Well, it seems the problem is here because the motor is working. Let's take it out and look at it. Okay, we've removed the board from the game, and I noticed that on one of the diodes right here was some corrosion. Well, Williams, Midway, Bally, they're notorious for putting in crappy capacitors. These are 30 years old, and this one is absolutely leaking like a pig. That is this guy right here. It's 100 microfarads at 35 volts. You can replace it with 100 microfarads and 50 volts, anything higher, but not lower than 35 volts. So when I removed this capacitor right here, underneath I found where the trace goes from right here off the 5-volt regulator, which turns the 12 volts that comes in here to 5 volts to run the optocouplers and all the other parts that are on here, including the L6203, which most people think are bad, but it's not. So what was happening was when I removed this capacitor, I've already done the repair. When I removed this capacitor, that connection there, which is on the first pin of Q1, is supposed to be connected to this side of this diode. This did not. It was broken inside underneath the capacitor where the acid from the capacitor had actually melted it. So it does not make that connection. You should have continuity between that and to the capacitor, and it was not doing that. So when we flip this over, this is the repair. Once I put the new capacitor in, I noticed that you are not having any continuity between the first pin of the 7805, the positive side, I believe that's the positive side, let's look at that. Yes, that's the positive side of the capacitor, and the end of the diode right here. So you want to flip this over. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to build continuity between pin 1 here, the plus leg of the capacitor, and the striped side of diode 1. Now, normally I would use insulated wire, but being lazy and not having any insulated wire right now, I guess I have to order some. I did make sure it was lifted up to where it's not touching those other traces. You don't want it to touch this trace. You don't want it to touch this trace. So having it up and over like that should be fine. Anything else that looks funky on here, if you see any solder joints that look like they're cracked or volcanoed or that they're loose, go ahead and touch those up while you have this out. Also, you can use the continuity setting on your multimeter to check that this isn't touching this and that this isn't touching this, but that all three of those are connected completely. I already did that, and we have continuity. So here we are back at the game. The board has been installed back underneath the playfield down by the Path of Adventure motor. The 3-pin connector goes to the left where the red and the white wire go to, and then the other 4 wires go to the 6-pin connector, which is on the right hand side. Make sure you don't over tighten the bolts. So let's go ahead and turn it on and see if we have life. And there you are, replacing that capacitor and putting the wire on the back of that board is going to save you 60 to 100 bucks. Most likely not the L6203. Let's go ahead and check the test. Mini playfield test. And it has passed. So if you have any questions or other additional information regarding this board that's underneath, please leave them in the description for other people to look at. Thanks for looking.